Good. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Season 3, Episode 27 of the Movement Podcast. We are officially live and ready to get this show on the road. Another great show we have lined up for you all today. Looking forward to the conversation. Let me first off introduce the people who are in the building today. Shout out to little nephew Ramzi Ali on the ones and twos. As always, we appreciate him and all that he does. Of course, you got myself, Omar T, and then to the right of me, you have Yusuf T, and then to the right of him is our guest for today, who is Makiah Shipp is in the building. So go ahead and give her a round of applause. You can see we have a crowd as well, so they like to give you a round of applause whenever you say something great or do something great, Makiah. But don't forget, we also have Mama in the building, Miss Andrews as well. Go ahead and give her a round of applause. You know what I'm saying, Ramsey? You know, obviously she does a lot. And we appreciate her as well. So today we're going to be talking about Makiah and her journey of becoming an author, which is great news for the community. Always giving back to the community, doing great things. So, you know, we met Makiah and her mom at an event that was held at U of M Dearborn. And, you know, we were there to speak about importance of literacy and stuff like that. And I was like, man, you know what? That's kind of falls in line with the stuff that we try to do, which is, you know, community work. So we wanted to get Makiah on the show, and now, well, like I'm a little bit over a month later, we are here. So thank you again for being here today. Before we start the show, we want to let you know, be sure to follow us on all of our socials. You have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all under Oz Media. You'll be able to listen to the show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. And if you want to call in, you know, you have a question or you have a comment, the number is 313-306-1750. Again, 313-306-1750. We got to give a shout out to the sponsors, the Balkan House, Juice Box, Qahwah House, BC Adhesives, Specialty Medical Center, Hanley International Academy, and Sidr Bees. We appreciate all those businesses for their support. Ramsey, we're going to give a shout out to the place with the best honey in town, which is Sidr Bees. And then we're going to officially get this show on the road, Ramsey. So shout out to Sidr Bees. All right, Yusuf, it looks like we have a little dilemma in our hands. We have this deliciously smelling sabaya right in front of us, but it looks like we're missing one important thing.
Yeah, it looks like we're missing some asal, some honey.
And you know where the best place to go to for honey? That is Sidr Bees. Sidr Bees is a remarkable company that stands at the forefront of the honey industry. With an unwavering commitment to quality, being authentic, and sustainability, Sidr Bees has carved its name as a trusted provider of premium honey products. The company's dedication to preserving the purity of honey is evident in every jar they produce. Sidr Bees sets a standard that goes beyond taste. It's a brand that captures nature's essence and brings it to the discerning consumers who appreciate the true goodness that honey offers. Sidr Bees is not just a honey company, it's a testament to the beauty of nature and the passion to deliver excellence in every drop. All right, we're officially back. All right, so enough with us. Let's learn more about Makiah. So, Makiah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And one thing that we learned is you grew up on the east side of Detroit. And so we want to hear a little bit more about that because we did it as well. You know, we grew up on 6 Mile Mound area. And so we, up until we moved to Hamtramck. But talk to us, let us know about yourself. What is it that you do? And maybe, touch on a little bit of those east side Detroit stories as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from the east side of Detroit. I'm a faithful east sider. I always tell people that if I'm telling them I'm from Detroit, east side come right after because I need y'all to know I'm not from the west. There's a distinct cultural difference and a lot of people don't like to talk about. But yeah, I'm from the east side. I've lived in actually a lot of different states growing up. I've lived in North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, all kinds of places like throughout my childhood. But Detroit for the longest, and that's why it stuck with me the most. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. I'm 21 and my siblings are 25 and 30.
Nice.
I have 2 nieces and a nephew, and I spend a lot of time with them, and they're actually a big part of my life. But I mean, it was interesting growing up in Detroit. I mean, obviously there was a lot of what you probably would expect when I tell you I'm from the east side, the gunshots, the loud ringing, the craziness of it all. And that obviously stuck out to me during my, childhood. But I also remember like a lot of the good memories, like the ice cream trucks, which apparently aren't really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Like I just found out people don't be like running outside with their dollar bills, like for the ice cream truck, which is crazy. But that was huge for me.
That was a highlight. That was a highlight of the day.
It was huge. It was huge. Like we would go and like, the little jar that got the coins in it, we would scrape them up and run outside to the ice cream truck. So that was like a highlight of me growing up in my granddad's house. We live near the East Outer Drive area. So there was ice cream trucks day in and day out. So that was really exciting. But I mean, it was an interesting, time growing up, a lot for me to learn, but I think it's really molded me into the kind of person that I am right now. And I really wouldn't trade it. Like people are like, oh, you're from like a rougher area. Wouldn't you have wanted to grow up with more or grow up with, maybe a different area, a nicer area? And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like I think it's provided me with grit and it's made me like the person that I am. And I definitely would not trade it for anything else.
Yeah, lay the foundation for you of who you are, and hopefully what you continue to do is too. So you've seen what it was like, and now hopefully you'll use it for yourself to continue to grow. And so that kind of leads us to the college days, which you attended University of Michigan. Great school, respectable school. I'm not gonna say the greatest school in the state of Michigan, but a great school for that. But all jokes aside, how was it attending U of M?
It was different. When I was planning like my college process and thinking about where I wanted to go to an HBCU. And I grinded to get my SAT score up to try to get that money for it. And it just was not happening for me. Like I was not able to get enough money. So I come from a lower income background and with a single mom. And she's disabled, so she was unemployed. And so it really was up to me to like pay my whole entire way through college. And I had my own private scholarships. I had like earned $30,000 in private scholarships. I'm talking about cash money checks like that I'm going to the bank and cashing. But that is still not enough. When you think that's 1 year. And then if you're out of state, that's a semester. So that really wasn't enough for me to be able to kind of do that and go out of state. And my family, they're Michigan fans. You got to go to Michigan. You got to go to Michigan. It's been my dream for you. I had dreams about it. Your mom, like, I had dreams about it. Now you got to do it. So I thought about it a little bit more. I spent some more time there on trips and like visits and things like that. And they were forking up the money. Like Michigan has a lot of money. And it doesn't stop when you get in. Like if you know the right people and you take advantage of that space, they have the money for you. And so eventually that's kind of what like solidified the deal for me. I'm like, the original goal, the original plan was to be able to go to college expense free the whole entire time. And while I do want to go to HBCU for that experience and for that culture, maybe that's just not the right move for me right now. And there's always grad school, which I ended up not doing either, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I eventually went to Michigan, and while being there, it was a very, very unique experience for me, like coming from the kind of environment that I was coming from. And like I told you, like I've lived in a lot of different states, so I've got a lot of different cultures, but it was still very different. Like they talk about imposter syndrome a lot, and I felt that like the first year through and through. Like I was like, the conversations that we're having during discussions, I know a lot about it, but the way that y'all are articulating it is not the way that I feel like I can. And it took me a while to realize, like, actually, like, I started talking in class. I remember this, like, one experience pretty vividly. I was talking in class, and this was after, like, you have the poli-sci majors who think they know everything, blah, blah, blah. And then I said something, and then everybody was like, oh, yeah. Like, you sounded really good when you said that so well. And I was like, oh, maybe I do know what I'm doing. Like, maybe I do belong here. So it took a lot of getting used to. I ended up graduating in 3 years. So I wasn't even there for the whole, like, 4-year experience. So COVID took my first year, and then I really only had, like, 2 years on campus to really experience it. And it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was fun. It was fun. I networked a lot. Like, Michigan brought so many networks for me and connections that I would not trade. But it was an experience for sure, identity-wise.
I feel like the experience is the main thing when you leave college. I feel like, I mean, obviously the education, but you can get an education everywhere. I think when you go to like a D1, campus and live, I think really it's the networking and the experience. I mean, would you agree?
I absolutely agree. Absolutely. Like, a lot of people say, especially now in this day and age, that you don't need college. Oh, you don't have to go to college, like, just because of the money aspect of it. But honestly, the experience, I think, is almost more valuable than the academic asset. Like, I graduated with a degree in Afro-American Studies, and that's obviously something that I'm applying to day-to-day life and just, like, having a foundational understanding of my background. But honestly, the experience, I think, informed everything for me. It helped me figure out that it's okay to not know what you want to do. It like gives you this environment where there's so many different kinds of people. So you're being involved in all kinds of different things. Like the people that I'm interacting with, I'm not like, I went on campus and I joined the Black Student Union and I joined these different kind of organizations, but I was also hitting up the other ones, you know, like these multicultural like societies, and I'm involved in all of this. So I'm not just, I have my community where I feel comfortable in, but I'm also branching out and I'm learning a lot about lots of different kinds of people. Because when you first see University of Michigan, you see it as like this overwhelmingly white school, which it is, but there's also like this plethora of like everything else.
Yeah.
Like everything else. Everybody has created their space because Michigan doesn't have a space like inherently. So since everybody's created their space, it's so easy for you to go figure out everybody else's space too and figure out why they need that space. And it's just, I don't know, it's a lot. It's comfortable though.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like these campuses are like its own town, you know, their own cities. I mean, Ann Arbor is actually in a city, but even like, I mean, once you go on campus, it's like its own thing, you know. But a quick question off of that. Would you do this all over again, the college experience?
No. Absolutely not. Like, no, only because, first of all, I feel like it taught me what it needed to teach me.
Yeah.
Like, and also, it was hard. It was so hard, like, balancing everything. I was in 1,000 extracurriculars, and with the school aspect, like, I also had a really bad issue with, like, perfectionism when I left high school. And so that was a struggle, because I'm coming from high school where my teachers are telling me my work is perfect and I'm great and I'm up here. But you got to also think I'm coming from a high school where the standard is not here.
What is the high school, by the way?
I went to Detroit Edison.
Okay.
And it's near Eastern Market.
Yeah.
So I'm going to a high school where they're seeing me as this like anomaly almost, because they don't have high expectations of their students, which is an issue in itself.
Yeah.
But they don't have the highest expectations. So they're seeing me as an anomaly, and I'm getting my head hyped up. Like, oh, I'm good. And then I go to college and my grades are good, but it was harder. It was a lot harder. And there's critiques on my essay. And I'm like, you sure? You know me?
Yeah.
So it was a lot. It was a learning experience, but I wouldn't do it again. No, I would definitely recommend that somebody do it if they're not there yet, but I wouldn't do it again. No.
Yeah, well, I guess that was going to be my next question was, what if you didn't get scholarships? Would you do it? That would be an obvious heck no then to it. Because, you know, some people debate the D1 to the, you know, starting off a community college experience. Like, well, I guess let me just answer that maybe for someone else. Like, if you were to give them advice, like, let's say they didn't get the full ride scholarships and had to pay it off, would you recommend them going to a community college for the first 2 years, then maybe look into a D1 school, or would you tell them to jump right in if that's what you really want to do?
I think there's two options that I would probably recommend, only because I'm such an optimist when it comes to like this whole situation of like college going and finances. I would first say, like, if this is something that you are really committed to and you see yourself following through with it, and I mean like going to classes and being there the whole stretch, the whole 4 years and graduating, I would absolutely say go.
Right to the D1? Like,
go straight to the D1.
Yeah.
Because there are so many resources at Michigan. I started off, like I said, with the money that I had, and then Michigan offered me money, and I was still getting money when I got to school. Like second year, I'm still getting these new offers. So it doesn't mean that just because you don't have it when you're a senior doesn't mean it won't ever be available. Yeah. Like maybe you have to pay that first semester, and then you go and network your butt off, and now you don't have to pay anything. So it's not unreasonable to say that you can still make that money. But if you don't know so much if college is your thing, then I would definitely recommend doing the community college route and then maybe doing the 4 year after. But you might not even need to. You might be able to network in that community college setting. I think people talk too poorly about community college. Like, you can network, you can create like opportunities for yourself at community college as well. These are professors that have so many networks and connects everywhere. And if you just like use that resource, you can come out better than you even thought you were going in.
Can you give that a round of applause, Ramsey? She's over here talking like a veteran right now. She says she's 21 years old. So you are an author, all right? Makiah Show and Tell. You had an interesting story when you shared it during the event. And I was like, that's pretty cool how that all worked out, where you were able to execute that whole process and stuff. So tell us about that, you know, how you got to writing the book, and then maybe tell us a little bit about the book as well.
So I wrote this book. Gosh, it's almost like 2 years ago at this point, which is kind of crazy.
And you probably talked about this like 25 different
Yeah.
times already. So it's the same probably story, but I'm sorry, we got to hear,
No, because I always I talk about it, but not as much as people think. Because sometimes I forget. I'm like, oh, I did do that, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember it, but it was a while ago. At this point, I was a junior, and it was actually a class. I was in a class. It's called Community Action and Social Change with my professor, Katie Richard-Chuser. Big ups to her because she has such a big part in this book that people don't even know because she doesn't she's in my book. I wrote her in it in the acknowledgments, but she played such a big role in this. So it was a class, and she's like, oh, you guys have a project at the end of this. Do something that's meaningful. Do something that can change somebody's life. So I was like, I've been wanting to write a book forever. Let me do this because it was so busy with school that I just couldn't see myself doing it on my own time. So I'm like, if it's an assignment, I'm gonna do it because I don't have no choice but to, really.
Yeah.
But I took that opportunity. I was like, I want to write a book. So I told her after class, I was like, I want to write a book, and I want it to be about me and a little bit of the experiences that I was having when I was young. She's like, do it. Like, what's stopping you? I was like, oh, I don't really know what's stopping me, but I was hoping you were going to tell me something that was stopping me because that I would have an excuse. But she said, like, what's stopping you? So I was like, oh, well, I don't really know. I guess it's because I don't know how to draw. So I would need to find an illustrator, and this takes a lot of money. So she's like, oh, okay. The next day we come to class, and I said it again. I need an illustrator out loud. This girl turns around. Really? My roommate's an illustrator. And she's in the school of art and design at Michigan. She's like, my roommate's an illustrator. You should reach out to her. I reached out to her that next day. She gave me her number. I reached out to her the next day. I was like, this is my project. I want to talk about myself when I was young, about my natural hair and what that experience was like for me. She's like, I'm down. This is starting to get into finals week. It was 3 weeks of finals. We grinded it out. I had never written a book before. I had never even really considered what this all meant, but I'm telling you, Google was my best friend. I'm like, how do you write a book? That was literally my Google search. How do you write a book? And it's like, oh, write a manuscript. This sounds crazy looking back on it, but I typed in, what is a manuscript? All of this is happening as I'm in the process. Yeah. And a couple weeks later, my teacher had a guest come in to speak to us just about his career. I think he was in finance or something like that. And she was like, oh, my student's writing a book, randomly. And he was like, oh, okay. He kept talking. And then after the class, he came up to me. He was like, you're writing a book. I was like, I hadn't written a sentence yet. I had not written a single sentence yet. He's like, you're writing a book? I was like, yeah, it's about this, it's about that. He's like, oh, that's amazing. You need some help? I said, yeah, it's just an expensive publishing process. He said, you know what? Type it up in an email and send it to me. That couple days later, maybe 3 days later, he sent me $5,000 from his company to publish my book, just off the idea. I didn't send him any manuscript, no illustrations, no nothing. He sent me $5,000 for the publishing costs. I was able to pay my illustrator and pay the girl who did my digital layout of the book. She also was a student. Both of these are students who worked on my book with me. And I did the publishing process, and sooner or later I had a book. And then I was like, wow, I guess it's not that hard. I mean, nobody's telling me I couldn't do this. So I'm like, I guess I have a book now. And once again, with that imposter syndrome, I did not call myself an author for probably 6 months. People were like, you wrote a book, so you're an author. I was like, oh, not really. I just wrote a book. Because it didn't feel right. It felt like that title was reserved for the more veteran people who have 5-6 books out, who are older. I imagine authors just old people for some reason. In my head.
I always did too, by the way.
Yeah, you think of an old person in your head who has greenery in their house and bookshelves. That's what I was thinking. So I was like,
that picture's in the back of their book. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
the author photo.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm not an author. I just wrote a book. And then eventually, it just took some confidence building where I was like, yeah, this is my project. This is what I worked on.
Well, go ahead and give that a round of applause, Ramsey. And now, if you can, maybe tell us a little bit about the book, Makiah Show and Tell. You know, what is the book about? I know you kind of touched on it, but maybe dive into a little bit more.
Yeah, it's about me when I was a young girl, about 6 or 7 years old. And I talk about my natural hair. So it was a struggle for me to have confidence in my natural hair when I was younger, in any way that was. So if it meant protective styles and having braids in my hair, or having the accessories beads in my hair, they would bounce around in class and people would touch them a lot. And it just made me uncomfortable, and I never really had the skills to be able to correct people when they do it. It was kind of foreign then. You don't correct people, you just kind of deal with the uncomfortability. So I wanted to be able to give a guidebook to kids now on how to deal with something like that. So it's me, I go to class, I have my hair, I have a show and tell, And I'm showing the kids like, oh, look, these are my beads. This is why I do this, my bonnet. And then I still have some like uncomfortable situations in the book where I get my hair touched and people make weird comments about it. And I just correct them in a way that makes sense for a kid that age.
It's actually a very good idea. Because obviously you're coming from, you're talking about a story that probably other girls that age deal with that same similar situation. So awesome idea right there. That's very interesting. I know my sister bought the book. I might have to check it out myself as well and read it, but that's Makiah Show and Tell. Before we move into our next ad, can you tell people how they can purchase the book or where they can find the book?
Yeah, it's available on pretty much anywhere you can find your books. So Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Target, literally anywhere you can get it online. It's $20.
There you go. Shout out to Makiah. We're going to do a quick ad break because she's been rolling so far. We haven't even got a chance to hear Yusuf, man. I don't know if you have any questions or anything. But before we do that, let's give a shout out, Ramsey, to our next sponsor. And let's give a shout out to Qahwah House. And then we're going to keep things rolling. So shout out to Qahwah House.
You know, if you're ever in need of some coffee, then you have to stop by the best place in the country. You know what that is, Yusuf?
Yeah, man, it's gotta be the Qahwah House.
It's definitely the Qahwah House. It's the first Yemeni coffee shop of its kind. You can stop by Qahwah House to try their famous Yemeni lattes, Adani shahis, mafawad, and jubani coffees. You can also stop by to try their delicious pastries, such as the Yemeni favorite sabaya, everything mini bites, and they even serve sambusas. They have locations in Michigan, New Jersey, New York, and Illinois, with more locations coming to a state near you. So no matter where you're at in the country, be sure to stop by Qahwah House and get a glimpse of what the Yemeni culture is all about. Also, don't forget to download the new Qahwah House app. You can now order your coffee and go, skipping the line entirely. It's like having your own personal barista.
I was wondering if they were popping out there or something. All right. With that said, we're going to keep things rolling. Shout out to Ramsey again. We appreciate him in the back doing his thing. So, Makiah, we appreciate you again for all the things that you are talking about and being here today. What is the hardest part about publishing your own book? What would you tell people that was the toughest part to get over, or the hardest hump to get over, I guess?
The toughest part for me was probably that I didn't know anything about it when I came into it. Like, I didn't know any of the ins and outs. I didn't know the process. I didn't know what company I should use. I didn't know anything at all. Like, I did not even have a basic understanding. Like I said, I went on Google and looked up what is a manuscript. Like, had no idea. So I think my hardest part was being able to push through that, like not knowing, but still going. I think that was probably the hardest part, because I could have easily just been like, which I did at some points, was like, this is raps for me. Like, I have no idea. I don't even know where to start, kind of thing. But I just kept pushing on Google. Like, I'm telling you, Google was my best friend. I would type in a question and then something else would come up. You know how they have like the recommended, you probably want to ask this too. So I'm clicking on that. And it just really like polished my understanding. And like, I ran with that. So I'm saying, like, if you are interested in doing, it doesn't even have to be a book. You might not know a whole lot. Like, it could be a podcast. If you're interested in doing a podcast, you probably don't know where to start either. There's not a whole lot of videos about how to start it and what are the ins and outs. But you just got to keep going. Like, when it seems hard or tough, because it is going to seem hard and tough many, many of times, you just got to keep going. Like, you're not going to have the best quality the first run around, because trust me, I look at that book, because I'm working on another one. I look at that and I'm like, this is crusty.
Yeah.
I look, like, other people say, oh, it's nice, but I'm looking at it and I'm just nitpicking, like, this part is wrong, now that I know more. So it's just trial and error with anything you do.
Yeah, and research with everything. Like you said, like, you have to, and it's all online, either through YouTube, Google, or even now AI. All these things can help you with whatever it is that you need. So I definitely can agree with you on that. And
yeah, hold on.
Go ahead, Yusuf. Let's hear this.
You mentioned you did this during finals time, right? The book starting and everything. How did you manage that time with finals?
I didn't manage.
There was no sleep, that's for sure.
There was no sleep. And sometimes that's what it takes, though. Like, everybody wants the glitz and glamour of, you have this, you did this, it's amazing, it's so pretty. But nobody wants to, like, tired, grinding it out, like, no sleep, eyes swole, looking crazy. Like, nobody wants to see that part, because you don't publicize that. That's not what you post on Instagram. You just see the pretty cover and the nice look, the nice visits, the cool outfits that come with it, the sponsorships, the network building. That's what people see. And that's what they should see. But at the end of the day, I was up like all night. I'm talking, I wrote the book and I'm editing and I'm saying it to other people and then I'm writing a paragraph in my essay and I'm turning it in and then I'm hardly eating, which is not what I recommend. Eat your food. But
Yeah.
I'm saying like there's a lot to it. There's an ugly side of it that is almost inevitable because if you really, really want something, it's not going to always look cute.
For sure. And I love that answer. That could almost be, we like to pull out clips and stuff, and I think that was a great clip of like, the behind the scenes of how what it takes to publish a book. But my next question off of that is, you've been traveling to other schools and talking about your book. So how has that been like for you?
It's been fun. It's been another learning experience. Like when I planned to go to schools, it was not really a plan. I wrote the book and then 2 months later I was like, what's the best way to market this? Because I didn't have a marketing team. I'm just thinking off the dome, like what's the best way? So I went on Canva and I created a little flyer. Hey, I'm coming to schools. And I just went on like the district directory and I found the emails of principals and I just sent it off and I'm like, hey, here you go, I'm coming. And I made them think, I think they had the understanding that I had done it before, but I was literally fresh. Like I came in there, I'm taking I had Fridays off from class. I remember this. Like I had Fridays off from class. I hadn't scheduled anything then, coincidentally, I guess. And I was going on Fridays, like school to school to school to school. It was really fun when it first started. I think there was a lot of learning, like a big learning curve for me because I didn't realize it was a business. I was just kind of doing it for fun. And then it turned into a business, and I was like, oh, this is like a real deal. Like, I need a lot more behind this. But it's been fun. It's been different at a lot. My mom can testify. She goes with me. All schools are so different, and they have such different kids that you get a different reaction every single time. But I think it's very rewarding.
Do you obviously speak to like 6, 7, 8-year-old students, or do you have like a wide range or variety of kids that you speak to? Or
well, usually my most popular like booking is a whole school assembly. So I'll go to elementary schools and they'll bring the whole school. Like I'm Young 5 now is a thing, so it'll be like 5-year-olds to 5th graders. I've spoken to 8th graders as well. Like depending on the kind of school that it has, they'll bring the whole entire school in the gym. And I'm just vibing with the little kids.
Nice. I get the vibe that there might be a teacher in you. Is that something that's possible, or is that something that's down the line?
So a lot of people don't know this, I guess, because I don't talk a whole lot about it, but my master's program is elementary education.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See,
so
I got the vibe. I know. I had the feeling.
It worked out that way, funny enough, and I think that's why I chose this master's program, because I was already doing this. I had no intentions of being an educator at any point in my undergrad career. But eventually, when I started doing the book, I liked working with kids, which is funny because I used to tell my mom I don't like kids.
Yeah.
Kids are a lot.
Yeah, they are.
I think I've learned to like kids because they learn differently. And I think my program has helped me understand that a little bit more. But yeah, my degree will be in elementary education.
So, are you trying to jump right in immediately after you get your degree, or what's the plan?
I don't have a plan, which is...
It's a good plan. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes it's the best plan to not have a plan.
Yeah.
Just keep going with the wind. And obviously, don't just not do anything. But obviously, you are doing things, and sometimes it's not good to over plan and stuff because you know how it is. Life can throw you curveballs and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I'm weighing my options on if I want to be an in-classroom teacher. But we talk about money like it's not important, but teachers are severely underappreciated, underrecognized, under everything. And that's just hard for me to want to jump into when I know I'm going to be stretching myself thin. It's hard to go into something knowing that that's going to be the case. So I don't know. I might be a full-time author. We'll see where it goes. Well,
whatever it is, we believe in you because you have that passion and just a quick part of education, with me being a teacher in the past, that's why I asked you that question, because I feel like you do have the passion to help, the younger generation and the next generations to come. But it is something that, it's a field where all of them are undervalued and underappreciated, like you mentioned. And it's just sad how the way we treat our teachers, because they are molding the future. And, that's a whole nother topic for another day. But if you love it, and it's something that, you love doing and, go for it. Why not try it? You know what I mean? Even if it's for a couple of years and just so you did it and, got that experience. But, respect to you. Yusuf, if you have anything on your end, by the way, feel free to jump in anytime you like. Want to make sure. Go ahead. You about to say something?
No, I'm just listening.
So what are the students' reactions when they, they hear about the book and stuff, and some of them feel represented because of your book? So, what's some reactions that you've gotten?
When I planned the presentation, I did it with the understanding that there weren't just going to be girls in the crowd. And the cover of my book is a girl holding her hair. So I'm like, I want it to be all inclusive and I want everybody to feel it. So I go into my presentation talking about identity. And the whole presentation is about identity. It's a little bit about my hair, but it's about identity holistically so that I can help people understand that it's about if anybody makes you feel uncomfortable about anything. So for you, that can be about the way you dress. For you, that can be about the way you look. For you, that can be your skin color. Like, it can be anything. And so I think kids really are they receive that pretty well because they start thinking about themselves. Like, I'll go around and I'll be like, what makes you uncomfortable? And they're like, oh, people bully me because I'm short. And then I'll make the whole gym say her name is Sally. I'll make the whole gym say, Sally, I love that you're short. And they start blushing and grinning and they're excited. Yeah. So it's like, I think it's like transformative in that way. And they're smiling, they're engaged, boys included. You might not think that, but boys included be jumping up to answer my questions. I give out my wristbands and my stickers. And I think they just have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. No, you definitely got the teacher in you then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you're pulling that one off or you give them the compliment and stuff, that's definitely that's a teacher move right there. So it might have already been written in the stars for you, Makiah. So good luck being a future educator. Right? It's probably already there for you. All jokes aside, shout out to Makiah. We're moving on with the questions, and so we're now past the second third of the show. So we wanted to give a shout out to our last sponsor of today before we move into the last third of the show. I mean, that's how it goes. It goes by fast. Makiah, you're doing a great job as well. So Ramsey, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Specialty Medical Center, and then we're gonna move on to the last third of the show. See, some of the other things that Makiah has been doing around the community. So shout out to Specialty Medical Center.
All right, Yusuf. So the other day I was playing basketball with my friends, doing what I usually do on the court. But as I was driving to the lane, I kind of hurt my knee.
Oh, man, not again.
Yeah, but this time I knew which place to go to that would take care of me the best, and that is Specialty Medical Center. Specialty Medical Center is a medical center that prides itself on patient care and its rehabilitation services. Their primary focus is developing a customized treatment plan unique to each individual patient's needs. Their center offers a full range of patient care, from diagnostic testing, pain management, physical therapy, regenerative medicine solutions, and surgical care. They currently have 2 locations, one in Dearborn and one in Sterling Heights. So if you're looking for a place that treats your medical needs the best, be sure to stop by Specialty Medical Center.
All right. Shout out to Makiah again. She's doing a great job. I got a quick question for you, Makiah, because we talked about Detroit, and I forgot to mention this because I said I was going to ask this to all of our guests this weekend, and I might make it like a compilation of an answer. And that is the Detroit sign on the highway. Please put the camera on her just for that reaction that she just had. But what are your thoughts on that Detroit sign on 94?
We were talking about this on the way here. Mild disappointment to keep it cute. Very disappointed to keep it real. What is that? Like, it's almost like a joke. Like, the draft is coming up. Do what you got to do. Like, make us look like we have been here before. This looks like, I'm talking construction paper. Like, I made it in a rush on my way here. That's what it looks like. And then the location is throwing me off a little bit too. Yeah. Like, it's at a draft, it's downtown. Like, let's make it big. Let's make it cute. I don't know. I'm just going to act like it's not there. That's the best thing I do, because if somebody asks me about it, now I have to actually acknowledge it. And it hurts me to say that Detroit failed at something. So I'm gonna just leave it where it's at.
They still said they're still working on the landscape around it. How do you feel once they finish all that?
I mean, that's just the landscape. It's the actual sign that we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, that comes with,
Yeah. No, I mean, listen.
I'm not a fan.
Don't get me wrong. It doesn't look good. Yeah. I personally just, I'm like the type of person, well, at least we got something. Because, it's hard for us sometimes in Detroit to have things that like, we got that. So I'm like, whatever, but it doesn't look good. It is pretty disappointing. But what disappoints me is like, that thing has to get approved by so many people. Like, I don't think people realize that. Like, how many people that had to get approved by? Right? Like, so many, and like probably high paying people, that are like sitting on top of the class of whatever their, profession is. And it's crazy. Like, something like that can just next thing you know, as residents or citizens, is we just drive by and like we just have to deal with it. It's crazy. And I heard it's like $400K just to do that. And how did it get to that point? And why is it? Why do they fool us with that AI picture? Because everybody thought that picture was what it was going to be like.
And you know what? I'm gonna counter what you said. You said, it makes you feel good because at least we got something. We actually get something. I'm gonna counter that because we, as Detroiters, we want what everybody else has, like naturally, because we get nothing.
Yeah.
We get nothing. But on the same token, it's like, okay, don't throw scraps. You know what I mean?
That's true.
We deserve what everybody else has. We deserve to look in, our city and see luxury and see class and see what we represent. So it's almost like a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Like you're throwing us a bone, and then it's poor quality. Like you should have just left it where it was at, like not giving us anything. Because now it looks like we're begging, and then we're still getting low quality because that's somehow what we represent, which is not the case.
And the country had fun with it too, on social media.
Yeah.
And it's like we already, it's Detroit. I listen. Nobody's gonna tell us anything about Detroit. That's how we are as Detroit people. I feel like we defend our city a lot, and as we should. But just gave them another reason, to clown us and on social media. And then I don't know if G-Mac Cash came out with the whole. I ain't gonna lie, that was a good song though. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, damn, G-Mac. But he took advantage of an opportunity, so I respect him for that. Obviously it was trending and stuff. So, but that was funny.
Do you think it's more of the sign or the location?
Both. Yeah, it is a very weird location. Now, don't get me wrong. When I go to work, I get to see it every single time, which is kind of cool. But I'm gonna be honest with you, it's a very interesting look. Like someone can easily miss it if they're just, obviously driving and looking straight ahead. You know what I'm saying?
What was the thought behind that?
Yeah, like I just had to it bothers me is it gets approved. Like even when I see sometimes you see a commercial is like so whack.
Yeah.
You be like, man, how did that commercial even air? Like you have all these ideas and they airing this. Like to me, how does something like that get approved? But, it's not in my pay grade. You know what I'm saying? So with that said, we're talking about Detroit. I saw, on your Instagram that there was a Detroit News article that wrote, couple Blake Corum and author Makiah Shipp, just scratching the surface of giving back. So what other plans do you have when it comes to giving back to your communities and giving back to, the areas that you grew up in?
I mean, I'm doing more work as an author. Like I said, I have some things in the works that I hope to put out soon. It's really like a as it comes kind of feeling for me. Like I do a lot of observation. So I don't want it to be, when you have those people who are from Detroit and they come back and they give Detroit what they think Detroit needs instead of what Detroit is saying that they need. I feel that a lot from a lot of people, especially celebrities. They'll come in, oh, you need this, you need this. Oh, really? What about all the kids who have literally no coats when they go to school? But you think they need some buffs? Like, I don't think so. You know what I mean? So I do a lot of observation, and I'm hoping that in my observation I get to see what kids actually need. I'm a little bit more youth focused just because I feel like kids are so impressionable and kids go through a lot that's kind of like overlooked. And there's so much prevention that you can do in the lives of kids before it gets to the point where they're adults who are helpless or adults who need more resources. So not to say that we need to neglect adults. I don't think that at all. But I definitely like to pour into kids. So I'm trying to look into best ways to do that. And some of that collaboration is happening with Blake to come back in Detroit and to just, do things in other places as well and where he's from. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. And Blake that she's referring to is Blake Corum. We're in the back of University of Michigan, national champions. All right, you could give them a round of applause, Ramsey. Man. So, like I said, I grew up in MSU. Literally, like the circle around me that now they're all U of M fans, and they would be upset at me if I didn't give them a round of applause right then and there. So I gotta make sure I show no bias according to those guys. But speaking of that, how has the support been from him? Obviously he's a busy man. Draft coming up in Detroit. Is he going to be in attendance, or is he going to be at home? Or
no, we won't be at the draft in Detroit. We'll be back home in Virginia with his family.
Nice. So, what's how? First of all, his support system throughout this whole process. How's that been like?
Oh, big, huge. Like, if I need a new shipment of books, he's the first one to get it from me. Like, it's huge. Obviously in the capacity that he has, so it looks a little different for us. But I think we do our best to try to show up for each other in the most ways that we can. So that just means no days off. That means no days off for me. That means no days off for him. But I think we love it so much that it doesn't really take a toll on us.
And how's he in terms of mindset, with the draft coming up? How's he feeling? How is he?
It's a big process. I mean, now that I'm on the inside of it, I mean, I was never, don't tell nobody this. I mean, I'm on a podcast, come on now. I was never a football fan before being with Blake. I didn't know anything about football. I still am learning to this day. Like, there's so much, like, to it that a lot of people don't know. But now that I'm on the inside of it, it's an overwhelming process. Like, overwhelming. People see smiles and kisses and hugs and this is amazing and so cute and appearance, but it's so much more to it. It's so much more to it, and it's almost like a roller coaster of emotions that you're put through. So much so that you almost have to just like disconnect yourself from it so that you don't get too overwhelmed, just because of how much there is to it. But I think it's with such big reward in the end that it's worth it.
Yeah. No, that's a great response. Great for someone that didn't watch football before. That's actually a very, very great response.
It took some growing. It took some growing.
No, because that's why I love bringing in athletes in here, because they like people. Obviously, they only see what they see on TV, or they only see what they see on someone's social media or something. Like, they really don't understand the grind. Like, even me, like someone has been around it. Like, I personally didn't go D1, let alone, have, professional aspirations. And so it's like I can't even almost speak on it. Even though I am educated on it, I don't even feel comfortable speaking on it because I'm not putting in the work. You know what I'm saying? I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and putting in the work. So it's like, people don't know that, man. Like, these are professional athletes. There's a reason why they have the professional next to their name. Like, people just think, hey, he dropped a pass. Oh, he sucks, man. He's terrible, man. Get him off the field. Don't ever bring him. You know what I mean? Like, those guys were the best players in high school. Probably the best player in college, one of the best players in college. Like, these guys were putting in the work day in and day out. And so it's funny to me, don't get me wrong, but that's why it's good to hear their stories, because people don't know it. People don't know.
And people often don't separate, like, they do separate actually them from like their humanity. Like, these are regular people at the end of the day. Like, they're waking up at 5 a.m. and doing these workouts and they're having all these commitments, and they're still humans after all of that. They still got to deal with their responsibilities in real life outside of football. They still have these commitments outside of football. Can you imagine like our lives and how busy they are? And then we add a career to it, but the career is like 95% of your day. Like, it's so much harder and it's so much tougher. And I don't think people just see the glitz and the glam and you're a football player, and they forget that these people are human at the end of the day.
I just got a reel for you, and that just came to my head. All right, and it's just a real idea, but whenever you have the time, it would be funny if you did like, where like Blake would be doing something that's like normal, and he'd be like, "Wait, you do this too?" You know what I'm saying? And like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like eating or just, hanging out with his family or something. Like, what are you doing? Like, aren't you supposed to be practicing or something? You know what I mean? Like, that'd be funny.
We'd be TikToking.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
There you go. All right. Shout out to Makiah again. Just talking about her boyfriend, Blake Corum. Shout out to him. Great guy as well. I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL. I already have him. I don't know if you know fantasy football. It's big.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's very big. As you can see, we're big fantasy football people here. And so basically, I'm looking forward to drafting him on my fantasy football team. Right. With that said, we call this weekend motivation. All right, it's not just for the weekend, but it is the weekend. So anything that can, give people, the audience out there, to listen to, give them some advice. And basically, the question would be: what advice would you give someone who wants to give back to their community, but don't know where to start?
My first piece of advice would probably be to just figure out what your passion is. Oftentimes, I see so many times like doing stuff that's so inauthentic to them, like, they'll go and do this community service, but it's not true to who they are. So they're not giving the true impact that they could. They're disconnected when they're talking to the people who they're helping, or they're not building relationships when they're talking to these people, or they're belittling these people subconsciously by saying, you need this handout from me, or you shouldn't you be so grateful that I'm here for you. And because of that, like, because they don't have that inner, like, this is what I'm passionate about, they're almost failing and almost doing worse than what they would have done had they not even touched this community. Because it's hurtful. It's hurtful when you go into a community and they have nothing, or they have close to nothing, and you're making them feel even smaller. These are adults. A lot of the times these are adults. I'm sure they already feel that weight of, I can't provide for my kids, or I'm struggling, or I need somebody else to come out and help me. And you have somebody come out and they're reminding you, you can't do anything for yourself. I'm the reason that you have food right now. I'm the reason that you have clothes. So I think it's important that we like recenter ourselves and remember why we're doing something. So if you're passionate about kids, how about when you do community service, you do something about kids? If you're passionate about sports, how about when you do community service, you do something surrounding sports? If you're passionate about nutrition, do something with food, like something like that. If you're passionate about homelessness specifically, work with homeless people so that when you're making that connection, it's authentic, it's genuine. You're not leaving out pieces and forcing yourself to do something or forcing yourself to connect with a community that you have no connection with. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect happens. I've seen it all too often, people going into these spaces with people who are disadvantaged in whatever way that may be, and they just talk down to them almost. And I can literally see the shift in somebody's eyes when you tell them or make them feel like you're giving them a handout or make them feel less than a human than what they are. And it's hurtful on my end because I know what it's like I've never experienced homelessness, but I know what it's like to come from somewhere where I'm getting Christmas gifts from somebody else other than my parents because we can't afford it. I know what that feeling is. So I don't want to repeat that with somebody else, with a fully grown adult or with another child that really sticks with you when you grow up. So I think it's just about finding what you're passionate about. What are you passionate about? And then actually taking that and running with it in the community.
Thank you, Ramsey. Actually, it's not Ramsey. It's the live audience that we have here. We appreciate you guys for, knowing when to give that a round of applause because that officially is going to be the clip. I just want to let you know because,
Okay.
that you almost had me tearing up over there, Makiah. Now, all jokes aside, that is true. Like, it's like it makes me think of like the people who like post on social media when they're like giving people stuff. Mm-hmm. Like to me, that's so weird. Obviously it's good that they're giving people things and, not to judge them on their intentions, but to me, it's all about intentions. I feel like you got to be very intentional on what you're doing. I think that's pretty much what you were trying to say as well. And it's just, we live in a weird world now. We live in a weird world. Like even when people do help, it's like they want something out of it. And it's like, you should be doing it for the sake of helping those people that you're helping. You know what I mean? But that's just the world that we're going to live in, Makiah. Not everybody is cut from the same cloth, as they say. So, just keep doing what you can doing and using your voice and keep spreading light in this world. Yusuf, any final comments and final words, by the way? Any final things you want to say?
First of all, thank you, Makiah, for coming on. You said this was your first podcast when she was a natural.
Yeah.
I can agree. You shared some very good stories. Not only stories, but just good things to hold on to, especially with younger generation type of kids and type of people. And I appreciate it because I'm still 19. Oh. I took what you said in, and thank you for coming on.
Of course.
And Makiah's 21 years old, by the way, for those that are going to be watching later. So everything that she just mentioned, just know that, that's where it's also coming from as well. So such respect to you, respect to Mom, of course. So for doing her job as well. So before we let you give your final word, Makiah, I just want to throw this out there again. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials. You have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all under Oz Media. You'll be able to listen to the show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. Again, shout out to the sponsors as well. We appreciate them and all of their support. You got the Balkan House, Juice Box, Qahwah House, BC Adhesives, Specialty Medical Center, Hanley International Academy, and Sidr Bees. We appreciate them and all their support. Shout out to Makiah. Give us your final word and maybe also tell people again one more time how they can purchase Makiah's show and tell and anything else, you want to mention. This is your chance to say that as well.
Yeah, I'll just leave with this. When you're thinking about what you want to do, whether that be in a professional setting or something of that nature, I think you should really just remind yourself to not dim your light when you go into new spaces. For me, eventually if you get really good at your craft, you're going to start elevating and getting into new spaces, and not elevating in the way that means that you need to be surrounded by people that don't look like you. That's not the elevation, just that you'll be in more professional spaces, and that can then in turn being around places or being around people who don't look like you, who don't come from where you come from. And that in itself is an experience. It's an experience that you have to learn how to grow confidence in. And that's been my journey. I've had to learn how to not dim my light, not dim my confidence, not dim my voice, not change my hair, or not change small things about myself just because I'm going into these spaces. So if you start leveling it up, be yourself. Like, people will learn to accept you, especially if you're good at what you do. People will learn. Like, it's not your responsibility to cater to anybody's feelings or where they come from, because nobody's catering to you and where you come from. Nobody cares about the way I talk. Nobody cares about that. And they're not changing for you, so don't change for them.
Dang it, Makiah, now you're going to have me sitting there thinking about which clip we should be picking now. No, that's another great point, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being for real. Like, I cannot tell you, and I'm happy that you're saying this, at 21, because I'm going to be honest with you, I probably didn't get that feeling until like 28, 29.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be real with you. Like, and it's a huge feeling, especially for people, because this show is more geared, we try to gear it towards, the youth. Like, we call the youth, like, high school, college students, and that's the part where they're trying to find their identity, really find themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a hard time doing so because they don't have the confidence in their own selves or in their own skin.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I probably didn't hit it till like 27, 28 years old, like where I was like, you know what, man, I don't care. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody wants to say that I'm different or whatever. Like, I don't care, because this is who I am. This is how I was raised. You don't like it, move on, because I'm still going to be myself, because that's the only way I know how to be.
Mm-hmm.
I may have tried to be someone else and it didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not fun. And you sit there and be like, man, this ain't me, man. And I got to maybe sometimes leave that circle, group of friends or whatever it may have been. So I don't know if I'm yippity yapping. I don't know if I'm okay.
Definitely. I mean, it's easier said than done, obviously. Like, there are going to be people who like come back at you who might even be in their close circle of friends or family. And you just got to learn how to push through. I mean, I only say this, and I think this is something that I've learned now, because you got to think, like, I wrote this book not having any prior knowledge on how to write a book. And then I'm going into these leveled up spaces where I'm around all these people who are seasoned professionals. And I'm thinking, now I got to change my voice. Now I got to change this. Now I got to act like I know. I'm still learning. And so I'm going into this. I'm like, now, I got to dress this way. Or now I can't say that I'm from the east side of Detroit. Like, no. And it's taken a lot, trust me, but I almost find that people appreciate that more when I've gone into these spaces, and I'm like, no, y'all see this, because people also said this about me when I went to Michigan. Like, nobody would assume that I was from Detroit just because of what I'm doing and what I'm saying. And I'm like, no, you should assume I'm from Detroit. Like, people from Detroit can do it too. Like, I'm going into these spaces and I'm repping where I'm from. I'm repping my skin color. I'm repping my race. I'm repping everything about me, because at the end of the day, this is who I am. And past this, if I'm a millionaire doing this, this is still who I am. And that brings confidence to all the generations that are going to come behind me who also want to do the same thing. They don't have to change to be in these spaces.
I love that. Makiah. Great way to close out the show. I mean, I'm going to let you choose when the show ends of which one you'd rather prefer, the clips, that is. But with that said, Makiah Shipp, go ahead and give her one more round of applause. I feel like we got you at the right time, Makiah, because you're going to forget about us when you get big time. You know what I'm saying? So we got you right at the right time, Makiah. You know what I'm saying? So Yusuf, you're going to have to remember this show right here. All jokes aside, hopefully you have all the blessings coming your way. Continue the great work. The way that you are moving, I feel like if there was like a trend, I see some positive things coming forward, hopefully for you. So keep it up. You got the right mindset and you have the support system. And if you ever want to come back on again, we're here. Maybe we do a part 2, and maybe a couple of years down the line, we're seeing where you're at now and kind of go from there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to forget about y'all. I can't forget about nobody around my side of town.
There we go.
So, yeah, I'll be back. Just stay tuned.
There you go. We hope that you all enjoyed this episode. Again, this was season 3, episode 27 of the Movement Podcast. We hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you all next